Now, keep in mind, I am no comedian, so they might be pretty dry humor jokes, but they are jokes nonetheless. So the first one is pretty obvious, and a lot of people have probably heard this one, but it is, what do you call a bear with no teeth? What do you call a bear with no teeth? Well, obviously, that would be called a gummy bear. All right, keeping on a similar note, what do you call a bear with no ears? So not no teeth this time, a bear with no ears. Well, you would call them bees because they're missing the E-R in the spelling of their name. So bears with no ears is just bees because that's all that's left in the word bear if you take out the ear. Next up, why do panda bears like old movies? Why do pandas like old movies? Because pandas are fond of things that are black and white, as they are. So they like those oldies because they're all in black and white. As I mentioned, these might not necessarily find them funny to all of our guests, but they are jokes still, technically. Here's another one. Why did the bear cross the road? Well, because it was the chicken's day off, of course. Someone else has to handle those responsibilities if the chicken can't come to work to cross the road. But also to get to the other side, because that's why animals do cross the road. They're on a mission. They're moving. What is as big as a bear, but weighs nothing? As big as a bear, but weighs nothing. This one actually might not even be considered a joke. It's more of just a thought, I guess. It's not even a limerick. It's not even a pun. It's just kind of, you got to think about it. But what is as big as a bear, but weighs nothing? In fact, there's probably a lot of answers technically for this question. According to the jokes that I was reading before the broadcast, what is big as a bear but weighs nothing? Well, that would be, of course, the bear's shadow, as it is the same size, in fact, sometimes bigger, depending on that angle of the sun. And obviously, it weighs nothing because it's just a cast onto the ground, and it's just a shade or lack of light. Now, this one I also stole from another employee, Missy, our manager, did a post yesterday on Facebook that had quite a good pun to it. And so I just, if you haven't seen our Facebook post on it yet, it's going to be new information to you. Those of you tuning in online, you probably saw the Facebook post, so you know what's coming. But we asked everybody on our Facebook to promote the cool socks we sell in the Bear Center's gift shop, the Bear Necessities gift shop to be exact. What kind of socks do bears wear? A lot of people don't know this, but what kind of socks do bears wear? Well, none, because they're barefooted, so they don't need to wear socks. Now, I'm not just going to tell you a bunch of jokes and not educate or teach anything, because that's what we're mainly supposed to be doing here at the Bear Center. Our main mission at the North American Bear Center is to teach people about black bears. So going off some of these puns, I'm going to teach you some things. So again, bears don't wear socks. They are barefooted. But what some of you may not know is that every fall, when the bears enter their dens in this area, well, in all of North America that are black bear areas, they will actually rip or pull off their foot pad skin. So you've probably seen the bear's foot pads before. There's the skin part on the bottom. There's lots of hair and a little bit of claws at the ends of their toes. But the individual toes and the main palm of their foot will have some obvious brown skin. Upon entering their winter den, they actually use their teeth, tongue, and lips to peel that skin off, and they consume it. Now, they don't actually digest it, but that will form what we call the fecal plug of the bear through that winter dormancy. So the bears don't go number 2 or produce any fecal material during the winter time. It's actually physically plugged by that fecal plug, which is almost always made up of 3 main things: that foot pad skin, their individual bedding that they chose for that winter den, and their own hair. All right, so bears do form an actual fecal plug. We usually do look for our bears in the spring when they shed that plug to make sure it consists of those 3 things, because if it doesn't, that implies that there could be a health issue or some other type of issue. So we do look for those things and make sure they're mostly consisting of those things. This means that when the bears get up in the spring, their skin on the bottom of their feet is very fresh. It's also very sensitive because it's so fresh. Over the course of spring and summer and fall, it gets calloused and hard and cracked and becomes less sensitive. Whereas, again, in the spring, it is extremely sensitive. So oftentimes we notice when one of our bears chooses to use the rock den down front, which Holly used last year, Tasha used in prior years, so we do get to watch them in these dens in the front occasionally. we noticed that they don't like putting their paws in that fresh snow. And that is, again, because they are so sensitive and new that it's very cold for the bears. And so what we'll see the bears do is they'll make a single track out of the den, and they'll follow typically those exact same steps back. And we've even seen Tasha kind of fall over or playing like a game of Twister trying to get back in her same footsteps without pushing through fresh snow because, again, they just really don't like that with those fresh foot pads. Let's talk a little bit about a bear's shadow. In fact, that's the main reason you find more black-colored black bears here in the eastern United States as in comparison to the western United States. A lot of times in the western United States, you will see an increase in the brown-colored black bears. So yes, black bears don't always have to be black. There are several different color varieties they can come in, including brown, cinnamon, a reddish brown, and things like that. Makes them look very similar to a grizzly bear or a brown bear, but they are still different. But as you move out west, you'll see more of the population of black bears becoming brown or a brown shade of some kind rather than black. There's a specific reason for that. Here in the eastern United States, we have rather thick and dense woodlands where black is a more beneficial color. So even if you look out into our enclosure, the dark shady spots within the enclosure are void of color. They're usually black or dark. Being black helps you blend into those areas. Now, as you move out west, those same forested areas are much more open, meaning that brown is a much more ideal or successful color sometimes, meaning those populations will have more brown-colored black bears than ours. Here in Minnesota, it's roughly estimated about 95% of our black bear population exhibits the color black. So that leaves only 5% for any other color. Most of that is all brown-colored black bears, most of that 5%. All right. As you move out west, you'll see something that's maybe even closer to a 50-50 split. 50% of their black bears might be black, 50% would be other colors. Or they might see something like a 70-30%, being 70% black and 30% other color. But again, a lot of that other color, as you move out west, starts to become brown because, again, there's more openness where brown grasses and leaves and trees are all exhibited in the big landscape pictures and the mountains and the rocks and stuff like that, so they blend in or just are less noticeable in those areas when the color brown is there. Going off of bears crossing the road, bears do regularly cross the road, and they're not specifically trying to get to their side. They're usually doing other stuff. They're moving around their territory. They may be fleeing from danger or perceived predators or threats. But a lot of times in this area, a common time to see black bears running across the road or walking across the road or sitting in the road would be the month of June. That's typically the mating season in this area for our wild black bears. And during that time, black bears really don't care about food. Their real main focus is mating, so they will be chasing each other around quite heavily. Males chase other males out and fight them to compete for access to females, and females will chase males away they don't like. And males will also chase females down to try and breed with them. So lots of bears chasing other bears during that time. It's a more common time of year to see a bear run across the road would be in that month of June, late May, all through June, and early July. That's typically when all the bears are done mating in this area. So that's typically when we're seeing them cross the road. But obviously, a bear can cross the road just about any time of the year. You just typically don't tend to see that in the winter because the bears are in that winter dormancy. So from spring, summer, and fall, you might see them in this area. They tend not to move as much during the heat in the middle of our summer because, again, it's hot, and most of the time they are black, and they can get really hot in direct sunlight. So they typically aren't super active during the hot times and the peak hot times of the day in the summer. They become nocturnal or crepuscular during those times where they're either only active at night or only active at dawn and dusk. That would be crepuscular. Only active at night is nocturnal. And they pretty much remove themselves from diurnal activities during our July and August because it does typically get rather hot. Going off of old movies that those panda bears liked, that's actually a common problem we have for why people are so scared of bears. Older movies, they tend to they tend to show black bears and bears in general just being mean, scary, and rather ravenous. When in reality, they're not quite as ravenous, scary, and aggressive as those movies tend to show us. But those movies, they have to be entertaining, they have to get your attention, and they have to take you for a little bit of a ride through the form of telling a story. For every person that sees a black bear and it runs through the woods away from them immediately, that's not very an engaging story or exciting story. I've seen personally well over several dozen black bears in this area, and usually the most common occurrence is you see it, You get a couple seconds to look at it, and boom, it darts away. That is the most common encounter a human has with a black bear. But again, that's not very exciting or entertaining. What's more exciting is the bear that decided to break into your porch window, go through all your stuff, open the fridge, check it out, and then get out of there. That's exciting. That's funny. That's entertaining. And so those are the types of stories we tend to share about bears, and we have done that for a long time. And we know they're strong. We know they have the ability to harm a human if they want to. But again, the commonality or the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. They don't tend to stick around when humans are around, and they do tend to flee quite readily. So bears actively hunting humans, extremely, extremely rare. But the movies sometimes do show that. And one recently that maybe some of you here have seen, it came out this past year, Cocaine Bear, for example. Now, just the title itself, that movie sounds quite interesting and entertaining, I would say, because, again, the name of the film is quite weird. But the story that actually happened with that is there was some smugglers that came over from one of our United States borders, and while the United States law enforcement was tracking them down, they dropped a large batch of cocaine into the woods. And then a couple days later, while they were looking for the cocaine, they found a dead bear within 100 yards of it, and the dead bear had white powdery stuff around its nose. So what happened? The bear smelled the package, overdosed, and died. That's not a good movie. So what that movie tells you is that the bear got all hopped up and started chasing around and killing everybody it could find. So again, not exactly what happened, but again, just that other story, it's not quite as entertaining for you. So Hollywood, they got to put meat in the seats. They got to emphasize. They got to be a little bit emphatic. They got to kind of go a little bit beyond the edge and push that envelope to make sure they sell the movie tickets and make a good movie. So that's really what it's for. But unfortunately, again, it does tend to shed bears in bad light, and that they are very aggressive animals, and you should never go walking alone where there are bears and things like that. Bottom line is they're just not as aggressive as those places tend to depict them as. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure that was a decent movie. I still haven't seen it, but we get asked about it quite a bit here at the center. So if you have seen it, maybe send us an email or a message on how you liked it or what you thought of it. But I can guarantee you that's not how typical black bears behave. And also that's not really even the actual story itself, as the bear did die relatively soon after it found that pile. Alrighty, well, I hope that put your Friday in a little bit better mood than the weather has today. Again, although it is beautiful out right now and we're just approaching like our 50% color change, we're just about to the peak here soon, and the landscape in Ely is absolutely gorgeous. In fact, if you pan around the main enclosure, you see all these beautiful maples exhibiting different colors right now. Off to the left behind our osprey stand nest platform, you see a maple that is exhibiting really, really dark, deep red colors. And then straight across the Low Falls area, you got a mix of red and oranges and a little bit of green still left in those. Super pretty. And then off to the right of the pond, we have another maple that's exhibiting oranges behind there, and then also some yellows. So really cool colors. And those are just the maples, not to mention all the other plants in the enclosure that are going through their reds, yellows, and oranges at the moment as well. So if you haven't made your way up to the Northland yet to check out the fall color change, you should do so soon, as in the next couple weeks, we will have hit the peak and started the downslope. But it's an amazing, amazing picture landscape right now, besides the rain, of course. So if you're thinking about heading up, I highly suggest you do, as again, beautiful, beautiful time to be in Ely right now. There's lots of stuff going on, lots of fall festivities coming around and fall activities to do out in the greater Minnesota wilderness. So come on up to Ely, Minnesota. Check us out here at the Bear Center and see all the other cool things you can do here in Ely, Minnesota. Again, my name is Spencer. Happy to be doing the broadcast at 12:30 today. We do this program every day live on our website and live here at the center at 12:30 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we will be doing that till we close to the public sometime in October, most likely. But again, we will continue to come on and do updates through the winter as well. Again, thank you folks that are here today at the center. We really appreciate you being willing to spend some time and money with us today. We are a nonprofit. That admission price you paid to be here is basically a donation, so thank you for being willing to do that for us. We do appreciate it. If you're going to be in town for a while, we also recommend you check out the International Wolf Center. You will not see any bears there, but you will more than likely see some wolves, and it's a pretty cool operation they got going over there, and you will definitely learn some things you didn't know about wolves. So we highly recommend you go check them out if you have the time and the means, as well as all the other cool shops and other museums here in Ely. Well, again, I just like to extend a thank you for those of you tuning in online as well. I have mentioned that a few times that we do broadcast these programs, and I know we have a huge group out there that consistently watches all of these, and I just wanted to thank you for doing that and being participating and whatnot with our online programs. We do appreciate that. And for those of you who haven't, maybe think about when you leave today, you can't get back up to you leave, check us out online, our Facebook, our Instagram, our TikTok, and all of our website and all our other socials. Check them out. We post regularly, and we do regular programs on them. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we hope everyone has a wonderful start to their weekend.